Hey, this is Peggy with Easy Peasy Machine Embroidery, and today I am working in Premiere Plus 2 Ultra on a request, and the request was to do paper piecing in the hoop. So basically what you can do is take any paper pieced pattern off of Pinterest or wherever you find it on the internet and import it into your software and create a design that you can do in the hoop. So let's begin. I am in Premiere Plus 2 Ultra. Premiere Plus, I believe, works the same way. The first thing you're going to do is go down into the tulip after opening your embroidery software. That is the Create module. And I'm going to assume that you've already saved a picture of some kind of paper pieced pattern. So I'm going to load the picture into the paint window. I'm going to say next. I'm going to browse out to the folder where I've saved all my paper pieced patterns. And for this video, I'm just going to do a simple one. So I'm going to say OK. There's my pattern. Here I can crop it. Depending on whether or not you want those lines on the outside, you can crop those out or not. Here is where you're going to choose the size hoop you want. If you want to use a huge hoop, and I'm going to use the huge hoop today. I'm going to do the 260 by 260, which is the 10-inch hoop. Or you could click this box and choose any size that you wanted. All I need is two colors here. It doesn't really matter. I could have left all of them. So here is the block. First of all, if we want, we can do a basting line. All of these things can be changed later. To get rid of the pattern fill, I can click in the upper portion of the box and it takes the orange away, which means it's not going to be used. Or I can click on the arrow down and say no fill. The same way, the same thing works with the lines. So I can say no border line. I can say running stitch. For now, I'm just going to put a running stitch. And I am going to use the shape maker. Remember that when you see a line above the triangle, it means there's lots of shapes. But for now, I'm going to use the square, and all I do is click on the square. When I click on the Shift key, it is going to shape it proportionately. And remember, if I decide that I want to change this or remove it later, I can do that. And I'm going to right click, and that sets the stitch. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a color change. And I personally do that so that I know that the machine needs to stop. And I know that I am totally in a different section. Okay, so now I have to decide how is this going to lay out. I need to create my stitch lines. So I'm going to go into Precise Create. I'm going to use a running stitch. There's a couple different ways to do this. I can create my running stitches first and then go back and change them over to something else. I'm going to do a double stitch here. If I decide later to change them, I can still do that. The first thing I'm going to do, and remember, your machine is going to stitch these stitches out exactly as you place your sewing notes. So I'm going to start in the upper corner and place my stitch line, and there we go. So that is going to stitch the first piece down. So number one should be stitched down, right side down, a piece big enough so that when you iron it with the right side this way, it's got plenty of room. And then you're going to stitch number two down. So let's see. We're going to lay number two right side down against this way. So rather than make the machine jump, I'm going to put another stitch exactly over the first one, right click, and there we have another stitch exactly over the first one. And remember, the right side is folded over number one now. So now we're going to iron these two. We're going to open it up and iron those two down. The piece was big enough so that you can square it off later. Now we're going to make our next stitch line. Remember, this is going to be a pretty big jump stitch. So we're going to go from here up to here, right click, and you would be sewing fabric number 3 down, right sides together against 1 and 2. And because the last stitch was here, the next stitching line is going to be right here. So I'm going to place my node here, and I'm going to put my last node here, right click, and piece number 4 would be folded against number 3. And then lastly, what I would do is, just for kicks and giggles, I would insert a color change between each of these. You could also insert a stop. Some people, it depends on your preferences. Some people like stops. I like it to color change. Make sure the colors are all different colors. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that running stitch and I'm going to do a copy and go down to the last slide, and I'm going to do a paste. And I'm going to sew around this one last time to sew all the edges of all these blocks down. So I believe that is what the person is looking for as far as foundation paper piecing. Now, if you were going to do crazy quilting on top of that, you could take and copy all these stitches over. So you've got all these laid down. They are all ironed and happy. And so what you would do then is, once you've got all these copied, is just change. Let's see, go back here. Right click over the stitch line. You would go into properties, and then you would change that double stitch over to a motif line, and you would apply it and say OK, and that would add a decorative stitch over there. I don't want to do that at this point. And another thing is, if you decide that you didn't want a double stitch, or you wanted every stitch to be a double stitch, I remember I have 2 squares that are single stitches. I can go into global properties, and that will change every single stitch into a double stitch. At least I was hoping it would. Global properties. Okay, so that changed everything. It changed it there, and it changed it there. Okay, so that's how that works. If I decided I wanted to just stitch out the entire block first on just a base, I could copy, and the reason I would do that, I could just copy all of this, do a Control A, copy everything except maybe the squares, and I could stitch these out in the hoop, and that would show me where my separate pieces are, so that I would know how big to cut my pieces so that they would fit correctly. The other thing is, when you print out a template, you can print out a template so that you can print it out at full size, and that will give you templates. So I hope you get an idea of how this is done. It's been a long time since I've done this. Anyway, hope this is what the person that requested this video is looking for. And catch you later. Oh, hold on, never mind. I better do a couple more things here. So, once you get this done, you are in Premiere Plus. So, always do a save as. Make sure you save it as an EDO file. Call it whatever. That will allow you to go back in and make changes. So if you decide you want to add some crazy stitches to there, you can do that. if you decided it didn't stitch out correctly, um, you can do that. Maybe you had to take these two stitches and left click and slide them up or something, because the stitch was different. Maybe you needed to um, change the direction of the stitching or the order of the stitching, like the stitch started here and you wanted it to start down here. You can still do that. Okay, so save those EDO files. In my Sonnet software, it's a little easier to go back and forth without saving those EDOs, but I find that even in the My Sonnet software, I still always save my EDO files. And then we're going to do export embroidery. We're going to say OK. It's in my video file. And always go into your design player. Take a look. See how that's going to stitch out. So we have a basting line. We're going to sew the first piece down. And there's the second piece being sewn down. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. We just laid the third piece down and we're sewing that down. Now we're going to lay the fourth piece. We folded that. And now we're going to lay the fourth piece down. And I'm wondering right there if I want to double that stitch so I can actually see where I'm going to lay that piece down. These two were kind of easy because the line was there. So I'm actually going to go back through and this stitch, which is 1, 2, 3, I'm going to copy and paste it, but I'm going to put a stop in between. So it's going to stitch that out first, so I know exactly where that line is. Okay, here we are. So I know exactly where that line is. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to copy it and paste it. And I'm going to put a stop in between it so I know exactly where I'm laying that fabric. Because yes, this one is folded back over. Yes, okay. I'm thinking. I haven't done this one well, and I'm not a professional, so give me a break. All right. The other thing, what else here? Oh, I was going to say, these double stitches right here, you do not need double stitches. Just a running stitch will do for both of those because they are just basically kind of placement lines. So I'm going to go Properties, That was a right click on the properties and do running stitch, apply and OK, and that should do ya. And that is why we saved the EDO file. So save, and now we're going to go export embroidery, file, save, paper piecing, export. We're good. I'm going to take a look at it in Design Player one more time. And I think we got it. Okay, that's basically how it's done, or how I would do it. Different people do it different ways, but that's a start. So get in there and play. Okay? All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.